Great. Well, thank you, everyone. It's 10 a.m. and thanks for joining us today. I'm going to stop off our sharing here. So you, of course, just want to make sure that you're in the right place. They're here to hear from Prof Alex Siow. He's the Director of Advanced Computing for Executives, but also what is known as the first Chief Information Officer in Singapore, the first person with that title. And what's amazing is that he came through from an engineering background, civil engineering to be precise, and through the circumstances at the Housing Development Board, HDB, he demonstrated his capabilities and moved forward, helped HDB do some transformation. Even we can call it digital transformation many years ago, and then was made the Chief Information Officer and took that even further. And so some of the efficiencies that you see today and the work was foundationally built upon some of the work that Prof Alex Siow has done. I want to also mention, though, that something that he doesn't talk about as much prominently in his resume were also his military days here in the Singapore military. And where if you get a chance to speak to him individually, you'll get to learn a lot about leadership, but also connecting with people and inspiring people of all different backgrounds, all different types, in order to do their best. And I think that's what's key. It's needed. It was needed 30 years ago, and it's still needed today. In fact, some of the articles that Alex has written for the Straits Times, if you read them, it's as if they were written just this week in terms of how IT and training is so necessary. Companies focus on it as a requirement. And boy, that now is it true just the same way it's been over these past several decades. So I'm really glad that you all get a chance to hear some of Alex's wisdom this morning as well. So let's welcome Alex to this webinar today.
Okay, a very good morning to everybody. I think that's a glowing testimony from me, maybe a bit exaggerated. I'm just an ordinary human, as you can see, yeah. But like all ordinary humans, we all go through hardship, we go through good days. And so what I think we want to do through this discussion is to just tell you that what you are undergoing and what we are also undergoing is nothing new. I mean, economic cycles go up and down, they come back, history repeats itself, you know, and there will be hardship. But I think, I do not know about Keith, but I have gone through a lot of hardship in my life, gone through 2 retrenchments and had pay cuts and bonus cut and everything that you think that is peculiar to you, but actually also has happened to us. But the difference is there are some people who couldn't survive a single downturn, you know. Some people just destroyed by one downturn. But so we want to say how we has been so resilient that we hit a downturn, we able to pick ourselves up and then rise higher, and we hit another downturn, maybe down to 0 again, and pick ourselves up, and then even higher we go, you know, yeah. And that is something that which we want to encourage and impart if possible. And Keith talked about my career in the HDB. Yes, I don't come from a very wealthy family like all of us. I think at that age, we all have to go through difficult times, studied hard, and then went to military, went to study. So there's something about me is that whether I like to do something or not is immaterial. I just do it well. Right? I think some people say, "Oh, I don't like this thing. I don't like this job, so I can't put my heart into it." So for me, if there's something you can describe about me, is that there's no such thing as a bad job. It's a bad attitude. All right. So whatever is given to me, I may not like it, but I'll still do a fantastic job out of it. Whether I'm a civil engineer, I do my best. Whether I was a commander in the military, although I really hate the army, no, I hate wearing green, but I was one of the best soldiers, NS Man of the Year. And I was a CIO. Well, I reached the pinnacle of my career as a CIO, but I never stopped. I still invent and I will still come up with innovation, which we'll talk later. And after that, I said, that's enough. They asked me to do a sales job. I went to StarHub as a telecoms company, and I said, enough of IT, let me do something else. And I was a salesperson, and I was a very good salesperson. So, I mean, that goes so on and so forth. I'm a professor, so I try to be a very good professor. So it does not matter whether you like it or not. I think it's a job to be done, and we do it well. So today we just want to have a frank discussion between Keith and myself on helping, because I have been helping people, also mentoring people through crisis, through downturn, and how to pick themselves up. And we'll be sharing some of this. Yeah, Keith.
Thank you, Alex, for introducing that. And there's a couple key things that you said there that were so important for us to take away right at the start. Number one, there's no such thing as a bad job. Wow. I think a lot of people would say, I hate my job. I've heard that a lot, right? I can't stand what I have to do, right? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Alex? Yeah. That's okay. A very interesting phrase for us.
There's no such thing as a bad job, but there is something that you don't like to do. So I said, in order to get out of a bad job is to not give up, but do the best out of it, and then train somebody else to take over from you. You know, that's been my motto throughout my whole career, my whole life. Yeah, that I'm not a selfish person. There are some people who say, in order to keep my job, I have to make sure that nobody can compete with me and come up to take over my position. So for me, it's always, I will train somebody ready to take over me so that I can finish this bad job and go on to the next good job. So another thing is, there is no bad job. There is, of course, bad bosses. And we will also discuss about bad bosses. Yeah. That makes our life miserable. All right.
Just to take a little bit, yeah.
So it is the reason why I say there's no bad job, because you sometimes don't have a choice and choose a job. All right, the job is given to you. So the only way to be consistent with yourself, do not let yourself down. Even you think that is a bad job, you still can do a good job out of it.
And have you found, Alex, that even when it was a tough or a job that you maybe didn't like, have you found that then the skill or work that you did ended up helping or preparing you for that next thing that you went on to?
It's always so. I mean, well, it may not prepare me for the immediate next job, but it does prepare me for future. It may be 2 jobs later, you know. So I think we cannot be impatient and, must have immediate result. Some people say, what do I get out of it if I do this job? No, sometimes the payback comes maybe many years later. So for example, I was a very, very good section commander in the army. I trained my soldiers very, very well. But 10 years later, the person who I trained very, very well, actually, I tortured him a bit. He came back and said, he appointed me as the CIO of HDB. The words he said is, you were a very nasty person, but you trained us very hard. But if I go to war, I will choose you anytime as my commander because you are so on the ball. You are so, but you have a leadership by example. So you see, the immediate benefit of whatever I did 10 years ago, it came and paid me back 10 years later. So yeah, it's not immediate whatever payback you expect. Okay.
Wonderful.
And one more thing is, of course, whatever you do it well, adds to your reputation, which is very important. Later we will discuss why at this age, when I'm about to sit down and do gardening, you know, there are people coming all over the world and asking me to help them to be on the board and advisor or director. I think that is a later part of this discussion.
Well, this is really good. So setting that foundation, sometimes where we find ourselves is not the place where we'd like to be, but the key takeaway at first is do well at wherever you are. That may help you with something in the future, but also persistence. I like that. Pushing through is key. And then ultimately also your reputation.
Yes.
In a very good book, it says that a good name is worth more than gold. And so you've established that. And said one more thing, a good name will actually provide you gold later on as well, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. I mean, we don't always aim for riches. You can't take the riches with you, but your reputation, you will remain forever. 100,000 years or 1,000 years later, if you have done something bad, you'll remain forever too.
Oh, no.
So a good name is the most important. Yeah.
You didn't just come through from, you know, Singapore only. And also some people might say, well, it sounds like Alex is a scholar and look, he was in the military, so he must have had an easy life and so forth. Can you share a little bit about the, you know, was it an easy life, you know, a gilded path, everything was laid out for you so that you could get to this point as a professor at
okay. There are many classes of scholar in Singapore, yeah, you know, yeah. There's
okay.
the gold class and the silver class and the bronze class. I think I belong to the metal class, the iron class.
Iron class.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I did get a head start. I mean, I got a scholarship, but I got this scholarship to Germany, which was very tough, you know, because as a civil engineer, the Germans believe that if you want to be a good civil engineer, you must learn to be a good construction worker. So I had to do 1 year apprenticeship. 1 year, 6 months I was at the construction site carrying steel bars and carpentry and concreting work, 6 months, and then getting injured all over the place. There was one occasion that my friend and I were assigned to go and chip off some excrement, right? I mean, these excretions from the old structure. So I was holding this chisel and he was holding the big hammer. So instead of hammering the chisel, he hammered my hand.
Oh, no.
And I had to be hospitalized, and which I was quite happy actually. Thank you for hitting me. So I don't have to work for 1 week. So you see, and in the military, although I was a scholar, yeah, I got maybe a special attention. But I strove very hard. I did very well. I was the best cadet, and I did very well in my command and staff college. And they said, okay, Alex, we have chosen you to be a Guards Battalion commander. So I said, why me? I'm supposed to be doing an office job. They say, wow, who asked you to do so well in the tactics? That's the problem. So because of my motto, everything I would do, I do well. Everything that I do well. So I became a Guards Battalion commander for 8 years, and I carried the same motto. So I drove my battalion to be best combat unit. Yeah. So everything you do it well. All right. And I think not everybody agree with me, unfortunately. Because it's easier to hide under the shadow, and so you don't stick your head now, and your life becomes easier. But of course, for a time, life becomes easier. But when you hit a disruption, then you have no choice but to come out of the shadow.
Well, as you're talking about this, one of the key questions we had is about 30 to 60-year-olds who went into engineering with a full hope and scope that, especially in the 90s here and the 2000s, when chip manufacturing, fabrication was very big, you had Staps Chip Pack and other foundries that were here. There was good high-tech engineering that was going on. Oil and gas was completely on the rise. You know, now those three big areas for high-tech engineering have been hit. But then where do people now connect the dots with what your experience has been? Where you went from civil engineering to CIO, how can someone who was an engineer kind of move into some of these new industries that may not have arrived to Singapore in a big way yet?
Oh, I mean, the only way to overcome any disruption is education. Education is the key. That means never stop learning, never stop preparing for the day you have to change another job, and never be afraid to take up a challenge. Actually, no job is too difficult. Seriously, no job is too difficult. As a structural engineer, I was not just doing structural engineering. I was also doing construction technology. I was asked to do computerized project management. And for me, I was even at one time they asked me to take over the management of the brickworks to see whether we can improve the brickworks. So none of these things I'm trained for, not trained for. I was not even trained to be CIO. You know that. Everybody knows that. And I created the job of a CIO. So, and then I didn't even know how to do sales. I had to learn from scratch what is a compensation scheme and what's a commission structure. How do you use the commission structure to motivate staff? So I always venture into new territories and then pick up of course, first you pick up skills along the way. I learned about accounting and all this sort of thing on my own. And when I went to do a sales job, of course, I was able to count numbers. So, there are things that are coming along which are not yet here. So what are they? So how do we get into that bandwagon? How do we get ourselves into the new technologies? So actually, frankly speaking, none of the new technologies that come to us now have been suddenly appeared yesterday or appeared today. They have been around maybe for 5 or 10 years. All right. For artificial intelligence, for example, they have been here for a long time. It's just that we didn't believe very much in it, so we never really pay attention to it. So for me, it's always curious about anything that's coming along. So now, how do you learn when there are nothing to learn from? Well, actually, a lot of things are also common sense. A lot of new technology is evolution from existing technology. Even the revolutionary technology seems revolutionary, but it's actually a combination of many technologies added together. Right. So for me, I think that transition from any job, it firstly depends on your mindset, right? Because if you have a mindset of failure, you definitely, you don't even start, you fail first. So for me, it's a mindset of never say die, try until you say you cannot do, and somebody else can do it better.
You hit something there with the failure part. One of the people that's thinking about joining our new program, FinTech SG, asked a common question. What happens if I fail? Where has this type of question of what happens if I fail, which seems so different from the mindset you just shared, Alex, which is I can succeed. So where did what happens if I fail come from? And also, how do people shift their mindset to, well, let me do my best to succeed?
Because I learned from Thomas Edison, right? He's trying to invent the light bulb. Say he found 999 ways that he shouldn't do a light bulb, but he found the right one. So that gives me a lot of inspiration. Yeah. So, well, if you don't try, you will definitely fail. But if you have tried, at least you know that's one way you shouldn't do it. You fail 3 times, you know 3 ways that you shouldn't do a job, right? And I learned from Mr. Liu Taiker, who is very much in the news these days, the guy who sort of predicted we can sustain up to 10 million population. He was my boss, yeah. And Liu Taiker was a great boss because Liu Taiker will never take no for an answer. When he was my boss, I learned very early, my 2nd year in HDB, that this is a man who will not accept a no for an answer. So if he asks you to do something, your answer must always be yes. Yes. If you say no, that's the end of your career. Yeah. Likely, I've seen some people really ended their career by saying no. So for me, I learned yes. So that's why I subsequently wrote an article in the newspaper. The answer is yes. What is your question? So that is my motto. Because Mr. Liu said that if you do not even try, how do you know it will not work? So if you have tried and you come back maybe 1 month later, 2 weeks later, and tell him, I have tried, I tried many left, I tried right, and finally I said, no, it cannot be done. Then he's very happy. Instead of scolding you, he will say, well done, young man. Yeah. You have at least put in your effort and tried. At least I know how this project will turn out if you have gone this way. So that has been my motto. That's how I run my IT organization. The answer is yes. Don't let IT be an excuse to not carry out any project. That's what I told the minister. Don't let it be an excuse that IT cannot do the system, therefore you cannot do the project.
Well, Alex, do you think that you come from a different background or view? Because people are still struggling with I might fail at it, or I won't try because I might get embarrassed. What will it take to get in mass hundreds of people, thousands of people to think differently about this? Try, and even though you might fail, you'll learn.
I think the reason why people fear failure is they fear to fail alone. I think that is a common fear. So that's why from young, I've learned to cultivate a network of friends, network of people who will support you, your family. Don't do things without a support network behind. So many people try to be entrepreneurs and they go out and try and fail, and then they get very disillusioned, despondent, yeah, because you don't have a support network. Don't you agree? Yeah.
So support network is key, and probably a support network that isn't telling you don't try, a support network that's saying, I'll support you as you try, and maybe we'll try together as well.
Yeah, as a boss, if I'm the boss, I also support my staff. We fail. We'd examine the failure, and then we say, pick yourself up. Let's do it again. Right? We try another way. Okay. So for myself, I was asked to investigate why the bricks, when transported from the brickworks to the construction site, the breakage is more than 25%. So actually, yeah, because of when you transport on the lorry, you have a lot of motion and shaking, and then the pallet will hit against each other, and then so we try all sorts of ways, put rubber pad in between and all that. It's still many ways we try to reduce the breakage of the bricks, but it doesn't work. So we know many methods that couldn't work. So we experimented with maybe adding chemicals, strengthen the bricks and all that, and manage by adding some additives. We have reduced the breakage down to less than 10%. So finally, it will dawn on you, there's one solution. Right? But if you give up and say, no, there's no way, because if you are going to be transported by lorries, unless you go by aeroplane or helicopter, you will have breakages, all right? So we have given, the rest of the people have given up. There's no way. There's no way you can reduce the impact of bricks, pallets against each other in the lorry, unless you have a very cushioned one, you know, yeah. A special cushioned lorry. So I think if you see this, this world, a lot of people try and some people succeed, but the failures are always more than success. Okay, in order to succeed, you have to go through the difficulties. There's no such thing as an entrepreneur. Suddenly, you know, Alibaba, for example, suddenly overnight they become billionaire. But people forget, by the time he succeeded, how many times he has failed and how much he has gone through, how much hardship. Friends have deserted him, family have deserted him, you know. So the life of an entrepreneur is not an easy one. Yes. So when they succeed, I always salute them because they're even better than me. I mean, the resilience, the perseverance. A lot of people fail. Out of 100 startup, maybe one will succeed, 99 will fail. And the 99 fail once and they decided to give up. You know why? Some of them don't have the support network. People laugh at them, ridicule them. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. When I first become CIO, all the other head of departments in HDB, they all laugh at me because I was the most junior. So they say, hey, you can fit enough to buy coffee for us.
Oh, no.
What do you know? You're a civil engineer. What do you know about IT? Yeah, are you sure? I think you better go and buy coffee for all of us every morning.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think even how great a man you are, how successful you are, you will have to go through a time of being ridiculed, being laughed at. Yeah. So the more you laugh at me, the more I'm determined to show you that I will do it.
You know, that's very true, what you've talked about. For thousands of years, there's plenty of people that have become leaders, but on their pathway to leadership, they were laughed at, ostracized, even exiled many times as well. So that's a very good point about how you do have to build a support network. You can't do it alone. Nothing is really successful alone. And speaking of that, during this last, I don't mind being a little bit risky here. During this last election, I heard some people say, you know, the Singapore government is supporting startups and small businesses so that you can really set up your new business and everything as well. But then the complaint came that, so how come people aren't, you know, using that support, taking on that support? And Alex, you mentioned just earlier that you're getting called from around the world to, I know specifically from Vietnam and other places, to sit on the board and guide people in Korea and other countries as well. They're coming to you to say, hey, we need that support network to help set up our business. And they don't have access to all the Singapore grants because they're over in other countries that aren't as friendly to business. What are you seeing here? Are people coming in and really setting up companies and then here in Singapore and then reaching out to you as Singaporeans to set up their businesses, or maybe not? And it's and why?
Oh, okay. People who come to me, they are of course envious of the support system in Singapore and say, "Oh, I wish our government also provide us that type of." Actually, we are here quite very pampered in Singapore. The government really give us a lot of help, but the help that the government gives you will not be forever. I mean, you say, okay, give me 10 years, I will come up with something. No, so the support is a push for you to start up. So we cannot be always dependent for the company, for the government to ensure your success of your project. That's why I think a lot of people fear and they calculate, this support will only last me for a few months or 1 year. Yeah. What I'm going to do if I fail after 1 year, right? And don't even get started. But you look at around in the world, which country in the world actually do that, support the startups? The startups, for example, those startups in China, they have to start up on their own. And you know the story of Jack Ma, how he has to borrow money and from his friends, people who believe in him. Now, the reason why people believe in him is because he didn't fear hardship. He was very principled and they believe what he believed. I think Simon Sinek said this, right? Yeah, he said that people believe in what you believe. People don't believe in what you want to do. They believe in your dreams, all right? Because if you don't have dreams, you will not succeed. So people loan you money because they don't believe in the product that you're going to do, but they believe in you.
In you, yes.
In you, yes. So that is the key, all right? A lot of people, firstly, they want to make money. But making money is not entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is about making a difference. It's not, oh, I want to make a unicorn and I'm going to be a billionaire soon. Yeah, yes, some of you will get to be there, but that is not the starting point. The starting point, you must have a dream and you must have something that you're not there to con people, right? You really have something and you can bring in people with like-minded dreams and come in and share the vision and build something together, okay? And make something better for the world. Look at Greta Thunberg, right? That is the type of person we want to aspire to be. I mean, she dreams because she believes in something and people therefore also believe together with her. So I think when I was a CIO in HDB, I also did the same thing. I'm nothing, I'm a coffee boy, yeah. But I gave a vision, I gave a dream to all my staff and made them believe in me, believe in my vision, and they follow me. And that's how we create a great IT department.
This is really good. That vision aspect and having the people, what you just said about people believe in what you believe in, not what you're selling. And lastly, that you want to make a difference. So you're saying that there's this attitude that's necessary.
Yeah.
You've talked about don't take, try to succeed, right? And so that's one attitude. This other attitude, network, connect with other people. And then the other attitude is believe in something, have a dream, believe in it, how you're going to transform, don't just believe I'm going to make money and drive a fast car. Believe that you're going to make a difference in people's lives. So these are really good attitude points. this is a time when it's easier to start a company than ever before. I mean, it's so cheap, right? To go and get cloud access, and then to compete internationally, you can get customers from overseas, you can get staff from overseas or here. But yet, what do you think it is? What will it take, Alex, as you've seen Singapore, you've been here, you've seen the senior management, but also you've worked with people in various backgrounds. Is there some key to unlock these three attitude points and get people shifted into those great attitudes you've talked about to do more business, like the pioneers did here in Singapore?
Yeah, actually, a lot of entrepreneurs start with they have a technology, they have something that they think is unique, and then they want to work on that technology. But I think that is the wrong starting point. The important starting point is there a need for this, what we are doing? Okay, start from the people's need. A lot of things are already invented, but however, a lot of things are so expensive beyond the reach of the common people. For example, some innovation that is you think is useful for the common man, and you want to make it accessible. Okay, so you come up with a company that produce a product that is to make something to make the life of people easier, and it's affordable for them. I think a lot of big company, they will develop the product to a point when whatever the quality of the product far exceed what the customer actually require. So there is a big performance and requirement gap. The performance of the product is so high, and the requirement actually is not. Right? For example, you buy a TV with many buttons, and you only know how to on and off. That is an example, right? Yeah. So because of the high performance, they are charging you for the performance of the thing, but your requirement is somewhere below. So entrepreneurship is about now fulfilling the requirement of the people without them having to pay the arm and leg for it. Okay, that is how new things can be invented. So there's no such thing for example, Airbnb. Yeah, I mean, of course, they are in a difficult time now, but it was something like that, right? The hotels is very expensive, but the people only want to stay one night. They don't want to pay so much for the hotel because it's near the shopping center, etc., right? That's why. But the price performance gap, the performance and requirement gap is so big. So you force us to have a new invention for the people. Okay. So I think the desire to help is the most important, and not the desire to become rich.
The desire to help. And so let me, at this point, connect with some other folks here that are on the call. You're welcome to type in your questions into the chat here. If you'd like to be part of the discussion, you can certainly turn on your video and ask a question as well. And I see some great people here who have been in our seminars in the past or who are part of our FinTech SG program. So please feel welcome to join in the conversation, ask a question as well.
Yeah.
Right on the chat there, or if you'd like to say by voice, that's also very, very human-like as well. Nice to connect with you in person today.
I think I applaud people who came for our professional certificate, because you dare to take the important step, all right, to try to change and get yourself equipped with new knowledge. Whether finally it benefits you immediately, as I mentioned, immediately, well, it may not. immediately benefit you. But rest assured, nothing that you learn will be wasted in life. Nothing. Even making a cup of tea, right? It's a skill that you can learn, which will not, you know, I mean, actually we learned cooking because we were in Germany as a student. We have no choice but to learn. So all these skills may help you to get a wife, you know, because you say, I can, let me cook for you. Oh, you never know, nothing is wasted for me.
That's very positive, Alex, that's for sure.
Nothing is wasted, yeah.
I think that's another beautiful thing to keep in mind as well, to be positive about whatever you're learning and take it in.
Even a hardship,
And
even hardship can be a positive thing, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we forgot. If you think your life is hard, then there are actually people worse off than you. Of course, I was a grassroots leader. I went down to see and realized that, wow, there are so many poor people in Singapore and could not afford even to buy lunch every day. And I have to go and distribute lunch vouchers so that they can go to the food center, exchange a voucher for a packet of rice. That's so destitute they are, you know. I mean, and here we are wondering whether today's McDonald's, why, you know, you are still complaining because you have to eat McDonald's every day.
That's right. And Alex, you mentioned that here in Singapore, there are people that are destitute, and we don't keep in mind sometimes that 40% of the earth, 40% of the population of the earth doesn't have electricity to their house. 40%, that's billions of people actually.
Yes.
And we are looking at a place in Indonesia, just as an example, where the whole area has no roads to get into it. You have to fly in to get to the area. And so the whole situation of the people, the 500,000 or so people that live there without roads, without electricity, until very recently they got electricity coming in, but again, not to everyone's home. So even the poorest person in Singapore lives like a king compared to people in other parts of the world here. So what you've highlighted is that there's this aspect of I've been blessed with some foundation and access to a lot of things, a place of safety, a place where the government provides resources, and perhaps even if you put on your thought and have a dream, you may even have opportunities. So let me turn it out to the group here. You've heard some of what Alex has said, and wanted to ask here, folks, any questions that you have for Alex? Any situation you might be in that you could share and then seek advice on? Alex has said you need to seek support if you want to do and go further. Anyone want to bring up any topic here?
Hi, Prof. This is Benu here. So I just heard about Alex's story, moving from one domain to another domain, just like, hopping with a great ease, I should say, when I hear the story. But I know there is enough amount of hardship and challenges that he had faced. I would like to understand what it takes. Is it just the burning desire, right? When Alex was moving from, let's say, army to IT, from IT to becoming salesperson, right? You were not somebody who had domain knowledge at that point of time. Is it only the burning desire that keeps you moving from one place to another, or is there some amount of work underneath, right, which is always there to help you move from one place to another place, constantly seeking for best?
Okay. Thank you for your question. When when we move from one domain to another and you want to pick up new skills and firstly, you have to understand that you have to be humble. Okay, so when I moved from a civil engineer to be a CIO, I know I went to the whole department. I did a town hall and said, everyone here is better than me in IT. But just happened that I'm your boss. But I cannot do anything without all of you. So I achieved my results through people, and I take care of you, you take care of the work. The same thing I said to my soldiers. You probably are all fitter than me, all better soldiers than me, but I happen to be your commander, but I'm your leader, but I cannot lead. We have no soldiers to lead. So we can only fight a battle if all of you are behind me. Okay, I will not be behind you. I will be in front leading, but all of you must be supporting me. So some leaders, they hide at the back, you know, because they're shielded from any controversy, right? You know. So when I was head of sales in StarHub, when there is any trouble with the customer, I'm the first one to go to the customer, bring 2 bottles of wine or some cakes, and then kowtow and apologize, you know. And those guys that I was selling to, they were once my friends, you know. I have to go down there and get scolded, you know. I went to Changi Airport, I got scolded by my friend, you know. This is the substandard service you give me. So I have to apologize. So a lot of people cannot do it. They say, I will send my staff, go and apologize, but I will not. And that, you see, that determines whether you are successful in your sales or not successful in your sales. I mean, you can only offend the customer once, and that's it, you know. So it is a principle in life, I mean, for us, we work through people, we get success through people. If you do a project, you have success through your teammate. You start the entrepreneurship, you have success because of your support network, the people who help you. Although you are the smartest, yes, you give vision, but you also still have a ear to listen to good suggestion. Do not just tune out whenever people give you any suggestions.
Thanks.
Thanks, Binu, for that great question. I saw a couple other questions here. Let's see here. One was that came in from Saida, who is part of our NUS FinTech SG program. What's a realistic approach to managing risk when forming a startup? And she went on to say, I guess the reason why people are still reluctant to form startups is because there's so much to lose, like reputation or investor expectations. So what do you think, Alex? What's a good realistic approach to managing risks?
In the first place, not everybody is suitable to be an entrepreneur. I mean, an entrepreneur is a person who dare to take risks and dare to fail. Or some entrepreneurs, it's because I have a very rich father, unlimited resources. But we put those people aside, right? The majority of us, we go into entrepreneurship because we have a dream. As I mentioned, that you must start with a dream. Yes, if you fail, which I think most of you will, you can always find another way. I mean, I have mentored a number of people who actually started out and they failed, and including my own brother, right? He started something and then he failed. So I said, okay, time to go back to work. So you go back to the commercial world, get a job, earn some money because your family still depend on you, but accumulate enough again to start again. And there's no such thing as age limit for entrepreneurship. Okay, don't think, when I'm old, I cannot be entrepreneur anymore. There's no such thing. There's no age limit, yeah. No age limit to dreaming, no age limit to entrepreneurship. But there is a limit to your resources. When your resources run dry and your network don't back you, your government grants don't have anymore, and investor don't want to invest in you, time to say, let's call a time out. Okay, always be prepared to have a time out. Do not be, just because of that, you feel, oh, I lose my face, I fail as an entrepreneur, so I cannot. Some companies today, they actually love people who have been entrepreneur, because you know how business is done. You know how to please customer. You know how to meet customer demand. So entrepreneurship, whether you succeed or not, will be good for your eventual career or your job. And in Thailand, they have this thing called senior entrepreneurship, right, Keith?
That's right.
7-Eleven, they say, okay, people who have retired now, instead of doing gardening, why don't the company give you a fund, then you can start something, entrepreneurship. So
Exactly.
I want to break the myth that only young people can be entrepreneur. Okay, there is no age limit, and there's no shame in failure. It's always good to go back, time out, and your experience as an entrepreneur might be very valuable to the organization that want to employ you.
Alex, I wanted to ask one last question here. This is going to be a little bit controversial. Recently, you did something amazing. I think what you did is hard. You got your cloud security certification.
Yes.
Whew. And keep in mind, this isn't a, computer science grad, right? Technical geek, etc. Alex definitely doesn't look like a geek, right? So,
Looks are deceiving.
that's right. And he looks, but you can see that he has this youthful energy. There was this, so you went and got your cloud cybersecurity certification, right?
Yeah, right.
And recently, this year, right?
Yes, recently, yes.
Okay. So in spite of, how many boards are you on? More than 10, right?
I sit on 8 boards. Yeah.
8 boards. So
Yeah.
8 boards.
Advisor to about 15 companies.
15 companies, advisor, plus a professor at NUS. You have classes you have to teach.
I have
right?
a master's class and an undergrad class.
Plus, you run a business inside of the college, which is executive education.
Yes.
Plus, you have a wife and kids.
Yeah. Right.
Plus. I mean, all different things. And you told us here.
Other social activities.
You have a lot of social activity. Every time I want to talk to you at night, you're out with someone here, there, right, as well.
Yep.
You know a lot of good places to eat. So how did you find, someone asked, I think May asked, how did you find time to study and also do all these other things, like all the advice you've given us here, network, etc., and also run successfully at the university, one of the toughest in the world? Where's do you have 40 hours a day and the rest of us only have 24? What's going on?
Okay, I have not a minute more than you, yeah. All of us 24 hours, yeah. And how we make use of the 24 hours, I think, makes a difference. There are some people who like to procrastinate, yeah. Maybe I do this tomorrow, yeah, or I do it next week. So anything that's urgent, you need to have a priority list. So every day I will go and flag out anything that is important that I have to attend to, so I do not miss any item. One of the worst things that you can do in life is promise something and you cannot deliver. Then this really is a reputation killer. If you have a reputation of never being able to fulfill your promise, that's it. Nobody will come to you. So they asked me to be the president of the Cloud Security Alliance Singapore chapter. So I started this chapter, And so I told my exco member, I say, okay, we can't be in this exco if we don't have any certification. So let me be the first. So I went to sit for the certification. Right? So same as the PMI when I started, right? Yeah. So we say, let's do the PMP certification, right? So, I mean, leadership is by example. You don't tell the soldier to jump over the wall and then you cannot jump. You yourself don't know how to jump. Right? Or jump out of the aeroplane on the rope, rappelling down the rope, and you yourself, they're not. Okay, oh, I see you downstairs, you know. So, I mean, yes. So that's how I can manage to do so many is first, I don't waste a lot of time. I apportion my time between rest and work, and I also work through people. Yes, I work through people. So
Wow.
although I may be responsible for many things, but I actually delegate my work. I have people whom I can trust to delegate the work to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I delegate some work to Keith Carter, for example. So you notice that the fintech program was delegated to you so that I can go and run other things. Yeah.
Thank you for your trust
Yeah.
as well.
You've earned my trust, so I can safely, delegate the job to you. So I think for ladies and gentlemen on this forum, yeah, trust is something you have to earn. Okay, when you are in a new job, people will assess you, your boss will assess you, your subordinate will assess you, your peers will assess you. It's a cruel world, unfortunately, yes. You're always on your guard.
That's
Unfortunately, right. That's life, right? The only person who have no complaint is the dead person. No complaint. So as long as you're alive and you want to live in this world, you have to face this. There's always assessment. People will assess you. 24 hours, they will assess you. So firstly, do not be afraid. Whatever you want to do not be afraid. Just do it. But remember a few principles. If you promise, you deliver. And you must have reputation of quality work, quality, all right, not slip shots. Okay. If you don't deliver quality work and you're known for slip shot, then the reputation will go with you, right? For 20, 30 years, people, Alex, okay, slip shot work. You don't want to be given the label, right? People come to me and ask me to lead this, lead that. I'm president of Computer Society, president of ITMA, president of PMI, now president of the CSA Singapore chapter. Yeah. In order for me not to do a slipshot work, I have to get myself certified. So I have to learn, right? So that is the motivation. And if I have to now, because we have done the consultancy in Vietnam, I have to go and learn design thinking. And because of the some of this organization, they come to me and ask me whether I can help them with cloud, because I'm now cloud computing, cloud security alliance president, so can advise them on migration, what cloud to do. So I have to learn. Otherwise, I would then be known as a slipshot. I mean, the guy is half baked. He only knows a little bit here. Yeah. So unfortunately, there is no shortcut to success.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hard work. Okay, I know Keith himself sleeps very little. I know, and yet we achieve many things. And Keith and I both, we are writing a book together, right? Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you see, even though we are so busy, but we never fail our friends. We never fail our friends. We promise a friend to do something, we have to deliver.
Keep pushing. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for a wonderful wonderful walkthrough of what it takes in terms of having the right, if I could summarize everything, is attitude. Attitude to, you started it off by saying your attitude is you want to succeed at whatever you do. You finished us off with deliver what you promise. And in between, you share with us the importance of feeling like, hey, even if I fail, I'm going to learn from that. And then make sure to network, make time to meet people, talk, get support. And then also you said, hey, listen, make sure that you have a dream. You have your own personal dream. What are you trying to achieve? And by the way, I liked how Alex said, not all of us have to dream up Alibaba or what have you. It can be a dream that fits in our own area of life, our risk profile, our family, the situation that we're in. And I also reminded us to learn something called be content. Now, that doesn't mean to stop where you are, but rather to, at some point, enjoy your day. You really enjoy what you have, and then continue to build and strive and do everything else. But, don't be miserable while you're doing that. Enjoy the journey that you go on as well. And so I wanted to share with everyone a few things here for us. First, to connect with Prof Alex, I have actually gave you his LinkedIn. So if you'd love to stay in touch with Alex, his LinkedIn is there in the chat. Make sure to drop him a note. That'll be great. The second is this is hosted by our STMI, Strategic Technology Management Institute. So make sure to stop by our website if you're looking and considering doing some additional upskilling and learning more. And I'm going to put the link here as well. And finally, what Alex did mention is around FinTech SG. So I'm going to add this link in here too. If you're looking for a background or some career change or to try out something new and might consider financial technology, go ahead and register here for our next information session, and we'll be glad to share that with you as well. So thank you so much, Alex, for your time. Wonderful session. And thank you, everyone, for coming over today. We look forward to seeing you again at our next one, which will be in a couple weeks from now. May will certainly, you'll see a note coming out from us. Register, sign up early, and we'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Hey, May, you have the meeting, so why don't we close it out, okay?